Hi, this is Neroke 5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribe Star. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much. So, what will it take to get society to acknowledge toxic women? Well, I got 1 point in favor and probably about 3 points to make against this. The point I'm going to make in favor of this argument is, well, to a great degree, especially as the misandry comes right out into the open, which it has been doing with increasing frequency over the past few, especially since, hey, it's just kind of ironic because Trump is not necessarily anti-feminist by any stretch of the imagination, at least not that I can see. You're going to get a bunch of fucking leftists in here. They're going to say he's not, but he's not particularly anti-feminist. A lot of people have seen examples of this. A lot of women and men have seen examples of this. And so tangentially, they're aware of what's going on. And, but they're kind of aware in the same way, like from probably 1992, probably through up until probably about for about that 4 or 5 year period there where I was tangentially aware that the media was a propaganda, like after I got familiar with Noam Chomsky's writings, that, that the media was a paid propaganda outlet. And I was kind of like, I was aware of it, and it was something that was in the back of my mind, but it was something that had to be kind of brought out in the open. Also, having spoken at length with some of the guys that are on my Red Pill Nation podcast, and I start going into the manosphere content, which is not the main, the Neroke 5 live stream, the one you're listening to right now. This is my manosphere content. I do get into manosphere content on the Red Pill Nation, but not as much as I do like this. The Neroke 5 live stream, this, like I said, the one you're listening to right now, that is my this is my manosphere concept. And it's, you're kind of having, and this is the first, so yeah, while they are kind of tangentially aware, they're also kind of a lot of people are kind of like, it's a lot of their immediate friends are not necessarily out and out feminists, maybe even because there are varying factions within feminism, just like there are varying factions inside the manosphere, right? Like the women that do have women friends, and literally every woman has at least one or two women in her social group that do have strong feminist leanings of some type. The ultimate problem is that it's not out there enough, right? The manosphere, which is getting bigger. Like I was on Red Pill Nation 499, I was discussing about the fact how, even though I was hooked directly into the manosphere, I didn't know what was going on with Armie Hammer. I didn't, and barely anything got mentioned about that. Barely even got mentioned in the manosphere until, stuff started coming out about the woman that accused him, right? And the manosphere was only maybe about a third of the size that it is now, which kind of tells, which, again, we're talking about a period of less than 3 years, but yeah, it's grown by about 3 times over the last 2.5 years. So, the manosphere is growing at a pretty solid pace. Like, it's not doubling its population every year, but it's still growing at a fairly significantly strong pace. And will continue to do so because it's past the critical mass point now, and people are becoming aware of it. They're even becoming aware of the terms, men are, without knowing what's going on, without knowing necessarily about the manosphere per se. The issue you've got here is that culturally and society-wise, the majority, especially the majority of Western males, still kind of buy into that sugar and spice and everything nice, and they're the gentler, kinder, weaker sex, etc., 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 right? And in order to break that conditioning, it requires an individual man or woman to have them experience toxic femininity or toxic women firsthand, or have it happen to someone that's immediately close to them before they'll even start looking, before they'll even start asking questions. Ultimately, what the manosphere has to do in this particular case is, the super secret subversive manosphere tactic of standing point. I take some weird kind of joy in the fact, for instance, if I don't know if you're going to be listening to this video months or even years down the road, but as of right now, as I'm sitting here recording this, Supergirl has, again, right, they decided to turn Supergirl into a feminist woke piece, and it is tanking epically at the box office. Odyssey might do okay, but Mona, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks, it is not looking particularly good for that movie. They're all basically feminist movies for the most part. Maybe not so much the Odyssey, but it's you have to break. For most people, and this has been, again, this is even people that have been on the Red Pill Nation with me, right? You have to demonstrate this type of behavior, and you have to show them this type of behavior over and over, and you have to demonstrate with facts over an extended period of time before even, say, guys that are, let's just say, even the conspiracy theory crowd has a very nasty tendency to want to ignore the evidence, even when it's spilled out right in front of their faces, and if there's any lesson that I think that can be drawn from, say, a woman like Ashley St. Clair or Lauren Southern or Tommy Lahren or a few other women that have either feminine women that have come in indirectly or directly involved themselves in the manosphere and ended up being less than reliable allies, or in the case of Tommy Lahren, absolutely fucking clueless, right? Even a lot of guys in the manosphere will gleefully overlook what a woman is like if she's pretty and she's repeating the same things that they agree with, right? There's still individuals out there that will still simp for Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern had to do an extensive amount of damage to her credibility before the manosphere was finally willing to push her away in a rather strong and stern fashion. And even then, it's not there's a possibility here that if Lauren Southern suddenly has a quote unquote change of heart and has come to understand of what's going on in the manosphere, if she did that, how many of you would happily, joyfully, and willfully allow her to just walk back in and get re-involved in the manosphere without any question? That's the type of that is the type of thing that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with, and again, right, I have it posted up at my MGTOW TV. It's called The Enemies of Man and Its Male Sexual Need. It's as a male in the manosphere, right, you have to be able to come to terms with and control your own sexuality. Otherwise, it will do your thinking for you. You will just fall back on factory defaults. And a woman like Lauren Southern or even Ashley St. Clair will be will be welcome back into the manosphere without any question. The other part on this, and this is the second part of the reason why I don't think that you should be waiting around for women to quote unquote get it, is the simple fact that, I mean, the manosphere is just not large enough at this point to push back effectively at this. They can push back, and like, for instance, like Louis Theroux's documentary here very recently did negligible damage to the manosphere. Right? It didn't do any damage to the manosphere at all, because the guys in the manosphere, there's been people like me that have been in the trenches now for, 13, 14, 15 years? Some of us even 20, even longer for some of us. Like, we know what the tactics are, right? When the manosphere starts to get larger, when the powers that be, in particular, when feminists realize, and they are starting to realize that they're losing control of the narrative, right? For instance, they can control what's said on the mainstream media, but I mean, the mainstream media is not the only game in town. In fact, you could make, if you want to go based on advertising revenue, I believe online advertising has exceeded what you're getting from the mainstream media, and that gap is only going to widen, right? The actual numbers of people watching alt media, I don't know whether it's equal, but it's going up at an incremental rate. And if it hasn't surpassed the people watching mainstream media, it will probably do so very, very soon. So, yeah, the manosphere has a platform to push back a little bit, right? It's gone beyond the point now, for instance, where feminists could just take every single guy in the manosphere and throw them in jail, and that the manosphere would cease to exist, or they cannot stop it and reduce its progress down to an agonizingly slow crawl, which is something they could have done even as probably as early as even as late as 2016. But they didn't. They didn't know. Right? Now you've got it's getting better, but again, right? How long is it going to be? Well, and this is the third part on this. And this is the one that I think a lot of you are going to probably have a hard time hearing or wanting to accept. But, because it involves you as the individual changing your mind and deciding that you're going to take your power back for yourself, and you're going to take the red pill if you haven't already taken it, right? And you're just going to accept the reality as it is. Like, there is going to be a very large number of women going into their late 30s and early 40s in the next 5 to 10 years that will never get married and will never have kids. They're going to be very bitter, and they're going to be very angry because they embrace something that ended up not being true. And they ignored the warning signs that the manosphere and a few women had been throwing at them, had been telling them. They ignored that. And they're not going to be able to go back because, unlike men, women have a very limited shelf life when it comes to their looks. And ultimately, what it's going to come down to for you as a guy in this situation is that, you can hang around and you can wait for society to get it, or you can wait for womanhood to get it. By the way, you're gonna be waiting an awful long time for that one, by the way. Or you can wait for an individual woman to be getting it. Or you can simply take back your power. Maybe even go MGTOW for a bit and develop your life and not base your life off your sexual need and on building something that's going to be yours regardless of whether a woman gives her thumbs up or not. You don't wait around for a group of people to get it. You don't wait around. I mean, it's just like dealing with drug addicts. You don't wait around for an individual drug addict to fucking get it and figure out that they're on a path towards jails, institutions, and death, right? If you have somebody that's in the throes of addiction, man, like, you get that person away from you. You don't allow that person to have access to anything of value in your life because at least speaking as a guy who's been in recovery for going on 4 decades now, the ultimate end, if you choose to stick by that person, is going to be jails, institution, or death, and you're going to go down with them. This is the same sort of thing with a woman, with feminism, and with society, right? Do you want to wait for the powers that be to maybe fucking get it? They don't act like they're getting it. I mean, I see a few political leaders. I occasionally see Trump doing something. But I mean, it's nowhere near enough. And, the manosphere is going to eventually, and is probably going to get there fairly soon. The manosphere is going to be something that you might even see a couple of guys a couple of politicians Republican politicians in the midterms try to appeal to if it's a close race. It will definitely be a factor in the 2028 races. But, if you're listening to this, and if you have taken the red pill, and you know what the reality of the situation is, you cannot wait around. You have to be taking action now to move your life forward. And you need to be moving your life forward regardless of whether society or your family or maybe your girlfriend or your wife or whatever says the terms that they put down on you. You have to define what your standards are for yourself, not what society tells you they are. That's what you're going to have to do. And so ultimately, what will it take to get society to figure out what will it take to get society to figure out that women are that women are toxic? I don't know. Right? The manosphere is still at stage 3 in the 8 stages of the moon. It is going to cross. It's a very distinct possibility that it is going to cross into the 4th stage here before the 2028 presidential election. Right? But it might not. When that event comes, you're going to know it. Just like Lorena Bobbitt was the start of stage 1, just like Duke Lacrosse was the start of stage 2, and just like Donglegate was the start of stage 3. Right? But yet you can't be, you can't be waiting around for this. You got to be figuring yourself out now and moving towards where you want to be now, and not basing it and not surrendering your power to another person or to another institution or to another government or to another organization to fucking get it, for them to understand. Because even if they do get it, even if they do understand, they have still got to get through the cultural, political, and socioeconomic hurdles that have been erected. Some of the changes that that men's rights talks about, some of those changes, I'm probably not going to live to see them. And, that's just the way it is. I've seen the manosphere grow at an absolutely astronomically fast rate. For instance, when I first became aware of MGTOW, I think there weren't even 10,000 MGTOW on the entire planet. It's like now, if you look at the numbers now, and if you had been investing in the stock exchange at that time, it's probably sitting somewhere just about 2 million men involved just in MGTOW, and maybe 5 million men involved in the manosphere, directly involved in the manosphere currently, and probably a fairly large amount that are consciously aware that there is such a thing as a manosphere and know what's going on and have somewhat of their purple pill. They have somewhat of an idea about what the issues are, but they're either too busy or they haven't had time to look, or whatever the reason is, Bottom line here, and this is going to be this is the last thing I'm going to say about this particular topic. You know what? They're going to get there when they get there. Right? What you got to do personally is you got to stop worrying about whether somebody else is going to get it and focus on what you want to do with your life. And with that, I'm done with this topic. And let's move on to the next one. I can't quiet it so it doesn't show how deep it runs, how far it goes. Little cracks I learned to hide, smiling thin to keep it inside. I play cold, I play clean, like I'm not split at the seam.
I've been drowning in my head, every word I never said. I can't keep this walk away, it's so loud to hear this stay. Tear it out, strip it down, no more mouths, no more sound. Tear it out, let it show, nothing left to control. Can't hold this in my chest, it's broken through, I swear. Let it play, let it show, I don't wanna be this anymore. I'm not fine, I'm not okay, now you see it on my face. If I break, let me fall, I'm done, we've run with all of it. I went quiet, so you never know.
This topic kind of plays right off from the original topic. The first topic, though, we're talking about society to get it. Now we're talking about an individual in your life, be it a family member, a coworker, if you're in a relationship, your girlfriend, what have you. Yeah, this is go again, right? Much like the society thing, except this is going to probably be even blunter. And I'm going to be repeating a lot of the stuff I said in the society thing, except I'm going to be talking about the person here. Now, first of all, I'm going to say from a historical perspective, in fact, from a cultural perspective worldwide, there is a group of people that have consistently, over the centuries, but specifically over the decades, have demonstrated a complete and total unwillingness to get it, and the overwhelming majority of them, even though there are things that can help them change what they're going through. In fact, my job, I deal with people like this all the time that have absolutely no intention of stopping or quitting, is alcoholics and drug addicts. Right? This can be a very, very frustrating thing if you grew up around somebody like this. And I'm speaking from firsthand experience, because it was like, with the family members that I dealt with that were drinking, they were great people to be around for the most part when they were sober, when they were lucid and when they were thinking. When they drank, and they almost always drank to excess, they turned a lot of family. By the way, it's one of the reasons why I still don't like going to family gatherings, even to this day. They turned family gatherings into an absolutely miserable experience. And, it was really, really frustrating having to deal with these individuals, because you'd see one side of them and you'd see the other. And it was like, why the fuck don't they just get it? And eventually, at least with most members of my family, they did get it. Now, that, as I have found out, is not the pattern for a lot of other family members or for a lot of individuals. And the reason why I am bringing this particular issue up is because this willful dishonesty, this willful ignorance, this unwillingness to change is not something that a lot of people are you can lay it all out. In fact, I have done so on occasions, laid everything out, explained everything to a person. And I'm talking about both manosphere-wise and drinking-wise. There was a guy, In fact, my original Red Pill Nation logo was designed by him. And over the course of at one point in the town city I lived in, which is Edmonton, at one point he was the treasurer for the entire area of Edmonton, and he relapsed, and he's never gone back. He's never stopped using. And I have pointed out to him, and I have challenged him to point out what has improved since he started drinking and using again. And I have removed every single possible excuse and justification that he can use to keep going, and he'll keep doing it anyway. The similarity between that person and a leftist or a social justice warrior is similar. That's part of the reason why, and again, I've seen this behavior paralleled in alcoholics and drug addicts. They won't discuss their disease. Same thing. Anita Sarkeesian never debated her critics. None of the so-called progressive male podcasters, except maybe for Destiny, have actually gone out and tried to defend feminist principles. None of the prominent feminists that have. I can think of one that did at one point, and this was way back in 2015, and she got absolutely destroyed. It's like it just... It just doesn't happen. They won't, especially if there's money involved in it, especially if there's a willing grift involved in it, they will not change their position. And while they rank and file the everyday woman and the everyday man is not necessarily infected with the social justice disease. Not every woman is a diehard, tried in the blue feminist. Here's the problem, and this is something that I have seen happen to guys in the manosphere. I know for a fact, having been doing some digging over the years, for instance, Barbarossa stopped doing MGTOW content because he actually, even though he was diehard MGTOW at one point, he actually got married, right? Terrence Popp has had the only relationship he's probably had in the last 10 or 15 years. He had to end it because the woman he was seeing at the time, more or less told him, it's me or the podcast. Right? That's the reason why, for instance, I am probably going to be pushing a lot harder to make sure that I have a stream of revenue coming in from my podcasting. It's going to be a lot less. It's going to be a lot more if it happens. Keep in mind, I'm chasing goals, not girls. I'm chasing wins, not women. That's my logistical point of view in life right now. That being said, and this will probably be a topic down the road, is that, one of the things that's happened, even though I'm now an older guy, is that, strangely enough, I've received more female attention now that I'm older and have gotten through to the more advanced red pill concepts in my life, right? And it's really strange, right? Because especially since I was since I embraced MGTOW so enthusiastically when I found out about it. You know, it was like I do not realistically ever see myself getting married, but Barbarossa didn't realistically ever think I don't think human ever realistically expected that he was going to get married either, but he did. Right? It happens. And here's the issue, though. Human's wife now hasn't been getting in the way of his podcast. You might get lucky that way. Terrence Pop's girlfriend didn't. Don't know. Maybe Barbarossa stepped back because he just decided that he could not do MGTOW content and be married at the same time. But I mean, yeah, we've got Sydney MGTOW. We've got, we've got Sydney MGTOW. We've got Coltane. We've got a few of them that used to do a lot of content that are no longer with us. Like, did they get married? Did they find a girlfriend? Did their lives change so radically that they couldn't do it? Right? This is something you're going to have to consider here. Right? If you're part of the PUA community, this is definitely going to fall on your lap, right? If you're a PUA, you are eventually going to get sick of chasing women around. You're going to probably want to settle down and move on to the next level in your life because, I mean, like, dealing with current modern women can be exhausting. And, so you're going to want to settle down. And when you settle down, like, is this woman you're with, is she going to be accepting of the fact that you're in the manosphere? And if she's not, is she going to get it? Hell, man, it's not just her, it's family members. Are they going to get it? I mean, my family knows that I do a podcast. I don't tell them about it. I don't talk about it with them. I'm not interested in talking about it with them because I'm not looking for their approval on it. But yeah, what happens when you're in a position, or worse than that, you are in a work site and one of your coworkers finds out and decides to use it against you, right? How is your boss going to react? Well, from a strictly legal point of view, and unless it's interfering with work, it shouldn't matter. But not every boss is like that. I had a boss 10 years ago fire a guy when his wife falsely accused him of domestic violence. It didn't matter to him that, the investigation was ongoing and that no court date had been sent or anything like that. It was like, boom, that was it. He didn't, again, right? That's something you're going to have to deal with, right? That's the reason why you see guys like Andrew Tate, and a few others talking about striving towards financial independence, because you're going to need it, right? Because betting the farm, if you're on a scale of yes or no right now for you, is there someone in your life, a family member, a person you're in a relationship with, a coworker, somebody else? Is there someone around right now that if they found out that you were in the manosphere, would you be in trouble? Would you take a major hit? If you don't know, you might want to find out. And when you do find out from them, you have to keep it black and white. And that black and white is going to be, if you find out that I'm involved, like you need to gauge their response to the ministry. If they sound like they're a little bit sympathetic and they know what's going on, great. But if you smell anything off at all, then the answer is no. Right? It is a scale of yes or no for an answer like this. And then you got to take it to the next level, right? If this person did X, what would I have to do to recover from it? And also, at the same time, what do I have to do in my life to limit the potential damage of this person doing X if they find out? Right? Because, yeah, guess what? You know, the red pill and MGTOW are freedom. It requires work. Now, it might not be so bad in another 4 or 5 years' time, but right here, right now, the manosphere still got a lot of stigma attached to it. Right? Also, with this person, like, if the answer is no to that question, and if this person potentially has the ability to really upend your life, right? And I'm going to tell you this because that's the reason why I went into addiction and alcoholism right at the very start of the show. The approximate odds that this person is going to quote unquote get it in now or in the near future is very minimal, especially if their life is already in order and working for the most part. They've got no reason to readjust. Also, when it comes to this, is that they might do something to you that may have to, you may have to do something like get ugly and take them to fucking court, or get in their fucking faces and get in their face and have to fight with them or fight your way past them. You might even have to do this with the majority of your family. There are guys, I mean, I remember when I wasn't there, but I can remember the early Manosphere conferences in the mid-teens, right? Like there was always a handful of people at the event that were literally risking their jobs to be there, right? Rollo Tomasi has talked about his trips to Vegas or his trips to LA or San Francisco, and talking about how he's met professional sports players, hockey, baseball, football, soccer. And there's a lot of them that agree with what he's saying, but can't publicly say anything because it might potentially ruin their careers. Like, we're still in that position. Like, are you willing to get ugly with somebody? And keep in mind here too, you may have to get ugly with somebody that you've been with, that you were a friend with since fucking childhood. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared to run that gamut with that person? If the answer is no, but you want to keep on the path that you're going on, then you got to find a solution. Right? And that solution has to be in a way that limits the ability of that person or those persons from doing damage to your life. Because like if it gets to that point where they have to do it, you're going to have to decide whether you're going to have to take it or whether you're going to have to stand and fight. And again, that's the reason why a lot of guys in the manosphere talk about achieving financial independence. Because you're going to fucking need it. Because it gives you the option if somebody decides to fuck with you because you made a decision to be involved in the manosphere or become MGTOW or whatever, right? MGTOW's part of the manosphere, right? Like, you may have to swing this around and you may have to go back at that person. And you might have to do it ugly. Like, really ugly. And if you're not physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually prepared to do that, then, my friend, you have some work to do. I hate to be breaking bad news to you, but you got some work to do, right? And you can do that work now to avoid the pain, or you can take the hit and have to deal with a very large amount of pain in the future. Now, I get it, but you're being kind of hyperbolic and you're being kind of sensationalist. Yeah, okay, right? I might only be talking to a handful of you here, right? But you all know, guys, like this thing of ours, it's growing. It's growing strangely fast, like faster than I thought it was going to grow, but it's growing. And, you know, like, for instance, I'm going to be doing a commentary on what happened with Armie Hammer back in 2023, 2024, 2023. That was just 3 years ago. Not even 3 years ago that happened. Right? And I looked back at the numbers. I didn't think it had grown that much, but I mean, the manosphere was only about 30% the size back then that it is now. Right? So it is growing at a very, very, very fast pace. And it's going to continue to grow at that pace until the manosphere reaches the point where it's part of the mainstream. And by the way, we are not that far off from being there anymore. Right? Like, you have to eat, but even then, right? Living your life on the naive expectation that there is a person or two around you that is not going to support your decision. And not only is not going to support your decision, but actively try to get in your way and actively try to do damage to you because you had to make the personal choice to follow a path, to take the red pill and go down the rabbit hole as far as you need to go down. Right? Do you want that person to potentially damage you, to potentially cut you off at the knees when you're making progress? Because that's a real possibility, right? So, how long until someone gets it? They're going to get it when they get it. The bottom line here, and this is even more personal than when we're dealing with society, is that, you know, even if society does get it, that does not necessarily mean that the individual involved will. Also, it doesn't mean that you're going to be above and free, right? Like, if there's somebody in your life that has the power to do significant damage to you, you got to either eliminate them or you've got to limit their ability to do damage to you. That's going to require work.
I can feel you in my head, like a lamb is fighting instead. I don't sleep, I don't rest. It's just a pulse inside my chest. I will break into the sound, pull the silence underground. I will break. I'm so numb, overloaded where I live. Let me out of this tight and grip counterfeit. I'm so numb, so numb. Overstayed inside my skin. Let me out again. Twisted nerve, paper thin. I'm so numb, so numb. If you want it, take it all. Watch me stumble, watch me fall. Shut it down, shut it off. Every signal cutting off. You don't hear me anyway. Just another thing you play. On repeat, repeat. We hurt everything, every breath, every string. I can't pull you out of me. I can't let it fucking be. I'm so numb, overloaded where I live. Let me out of this tight and grip counterfeit. I'm so numb, so numb. Overstayed inside my skin. Let me out again. Twisted nerve, paper thin. I'm so numb, so numb. Hear it, I'm pushing it. Feel it under your skin. Hear it, I'm pushing it. Don't pretend it's not there. You wear it like a second face. You feed it just to numb the taste. I can't hold it back again. Cut me loose, cut me clean. There's nothing left in between. Cut me loose, cut me free. Or bury what's left of me. I'm so numb, overloaded where I live. Let me out of this tight and grip counterfeit. I'm so numb, so numb. Break it open from within. Let me out again. Tear the nerve, let it spin. I'm so numb, so numb. I'm so numb, I'm so numb.
Fresh and fit and whatever by the numbers. Now, I made sure I actually did a little bit of fact checking before I did this, because this is the second time I've tried this to do this recording. Fresh and fit and whatever combined have over 5,000 unique and individual women. They have rotating rosters and whatever. So their actual guest totals are probably somewhere between I think around 8 to 10,000 total guests if you wanted to actually include the number of individual women, because both of them tend to have rotating sections of women that come through. Probably about 5 to 6,000. Now, what I'm going to do before I do anything else around this, though, is I'm going to point out that the average size of even a large presidential poll is around 3,000 people. And why is that important? Because when you're actually talking about, because one of the big knocks on both Fresh and Fit and whatever is the kind of guests that they bring on. And, you know, probably, and specifically Fresh and Fit, one of the things that has really specifically, because Fresh and Fit's had a much larger pool, because it's been around longer, has had a much larger pool of women over the years because they've been running a little bit longer, is the fact that, you know, when you start getting like 6,000 women, and you're seeing the same, although you don't see it quite so much on Fresh and Fit, because, I mean, and you got to know this about the Manosphere, Brian Atlas comes from a MGTOW background, whereas the guys over at Fresh and Fit come from the PUA faction of the Manosphere, which means that they're going to treat the women differently. That's one of the key points here. But I mean, when you're seeing consistently stupid behavior, and keep in mind and this is something that's been used as an attempt to dismiss these two shows as somehow being representative of women, is the fact that the places that they tend to draw most of these women from, you know, and the ages of these women tend to kind of skew the value. Here's the thing, though. I have seen older women on both of those shows. And keep in mind, I'm not a regular viewer of either of these two shows, but I have seen older women come on the show and not do particularly well either. And the other thing that I think really needs to, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of this, is that each one of those, say, 5,000 to 6,000 women has an extended network of between 10 and 15 people that they got their immediate friends and their friends of friends, right? So your average extended, they got an immediate group of about 10 to 15 people, and then each one of those people also has, let's just say, an average of 12 people per. So it comes out to somewhere between 120 to 140 women per, which, if you add that up, means that the total number, I mean, the combined total of all of these women, and again, you're kind of spitballing here, but say 130 women times 6,000 is going to be over 100,000 combined in those extended groups, which is a substantial number. You know, that would be, for political purposes, that would be considered, and that's the reason why I brought up the average size of the presidential poll, right? Right, because it's, and by the way, the polls that then to determine who is going to be president are also notoriously skewed, depending upon who's doing the polling, who's asking the questions. In fact, I'm going to be doing a there's a situation right now. There's a movie that has just come out, or is going to be coming out in a couple of days, called The Odyssey, and it's got a ridiculously high rating. Like, a higher rating, Christopher Nolan's movie's got a higher rating. Odyssey's got a higher rating than Batman. Here's the thing, though, right? And this is something that was done specifically by the studio in this particular situation. They curated the reviewers and they curated the premieres. Like they didn't, for instance, they didn't have a premiere in Athens, which is weird because it's a Greek story. Yeah. So yeah, there is such a thing as skewing of the polls. Here's the situation, and this is the part that I think that this is in particular why Fresh and Fit is coming under such intense scrutiny, is because if you're having both of these shows run for the time that they have. Now they have demonetized Fresh and Fit, and it hasn't slowed them down at all, right? But I mean, if you keep, even with a curated crowd, right? If you keep, and this probably more specifically, because again, Brian Atlas will be a lot more direct and a lot more blunt with the women, as opposed to Myron Gaines, who will sometimes use kid gloves to a certain degree. Although Myron Gaines has booted women off of his show as well. It does happen. But I mean, what you keep seeing on those shows, and again, you do see it much more on Whatever as opposed to Fresh and Fit, but what you do see on these shows are women between the ages of, say, 18 and 25 going into these shows and really not being particularly smart. And it's like, okay, even allowing for the fact that they're of their professions, for instance, and their ages. I mean, you don't expect the average 18 to 25-year-old to be particularly intelligent and worldly wise. There are exceptions to the rule, of course, but for the most part, not really. I mean, I thought I was pretty smart back then, and I was, but, there was still a lot of learning I had to do. And this is why the numbers, though, are important. Like, if you have a combined moat of, say, 5,000 to 6,000 women, and you're seeing a lot of the same consistent behavior, right? Like, given the social dynamics what I know about women and social dynamics is that they're much more susceptible to hive mind thinking than men are. And so each of those women is a reflection of the crowd or the tribe that she associates with outside of the show. So she doesn't know. And if there was, for instance, Brian Atlas will ask really basic questions to these women. And like, there's a lot of times that they can't answer. And what's going on here is that the women that can't answer, they either don't have a friend in their group that answers, or there's one that knows, or none of the women in that group have even bothered to even go and find out. Like, there is a disturbingly low level of curiosity about people and life and mindsets that appears to exist in I'm gonna go Gen Z, because I mean, I break it down 60 to 80, 80 to 2000 is Gen Y, and then 2000 to 2020 is Gen Alpha or Gen Z. And what you're getting is, yeah, a disturbingly large amount of not willing to go and find out things, or not knowing, or not caring. A hugely disproportionate and this is the thing, right? And this is the issue, and this is one of the reasons why MGTOW has been taking off to the degree that it has been taking off, is the fact that when it comes to specifically to these types of women, you know, do you want to get involved with women like this? Do you want to? Because, like, I mean, one of the really disturbing things that I see about this, other than the complete and total lack of knowledge of everything that's going on around them, is the feminist indoctrination. Like, literally, almost every woman that comes on the show has been indoctrinated by the cult of feminism in one form or another. That's really disturbing because, I mean, the cult of feminism, or the tribe of feminism, they do most of the talking for women. And for a woman to actually speak up and go, yes, all of you are wrong, I mean, it's generally speaking with women, even far more so than men. If women encounter this and they figure out that something's wrong, I mean, they are even more likely to just simply pack up their toys and leave and not even bother trying to reason with them. Because, I mean, you're not just, because even more so than with men, when you're trying to reason with women, it's like you're not just talking to one of them, you're talking to the entire group. So it's like, and I mean, I did the other parts of the show that you've listened to, you know, like what are you going to do? Were you going to wait around for the woman to get it? Or are you going to wait around for society to get it? You know, you're going to be waiting an awful long time. You know, like, you're going to be waiting. If you're expecting that this woman you really like is going to somehow wake the fuck up after you tell her this and this and this, and even if you have, and I've done this, right, with some leftists and some wokesters, you know, like, I have presented evidence and they will still keep arguing. Now, again, right, I'm starting to understand that you generally will attract more bees with honey than you will with vinegar. So if you make the person wrong for believing what they're believing, they're just going to double down on what they believe. So, I mean, yeah, what you're seeing with this is, like, I mean, the women that are going on Fresh and Fit and whatever are making other women, like women in general, look stupid. Because, I mean, ultimately what it boils down to is that the sheer number of women that have gone and said or done something fucking stupid on these shows, and the fact that it keeps happening on a regular basis on these shows, you know, is, at this point, you're starting to get into the law of large numbers. You're starting to get into, even if it is a biased sample size, 6,000 women is larger than the largest presidential poll. You know, the polls or the polls down in Canada determine who the prime minister is. Like, yeah, like, you know, those polls, you know, the ones that determine who runs the country, those polls. And so, yeah, one of the reasons, in particular with Fresh and Fit, one of the reasons why that show is coming under attack is because, you know, these shorts keep coming out. And they keep coming out, and they keep coming out, and they keep coming out. And it's like, and these women just continuously make themselves look stupid. And here's the thing, they're doing it to themselves. It's not anybody in the manosphere doing it to them. They are doing it to themselves. And what is going on here is that, it's getting increasingly difficult to use, oh, well, it's a biased poll, or they've got a certain subset of numbers. Because, I mean, what's been going on is Fresh and Fit and whatever have invited other people on to try to dismantle their arguments. And even they, most of the time, what am I thinking most of the time? I think to date, the only people that have actually scored, for instance, like Andrew Wilson comes on whatever quite frequently. The only women that I think that have actually scored a serious blow against Andrew Wilson have done it momentarily. And then what you do is you get all the simps and blue pill manginas and all the feminists taking that one event and trying to blow it up as to, oh, well, Andrew Wilson got owned. It's like, well, no, he got owned for a moment. Because the two times where somebody got Andrew Wilson flustered on Fresh and Fit, I went back and I looked at both of those shows, and it turned out, right, that they cherry-picked a moment out of the show, and they just hoped that nobody else was going to see what they'd done. And in fact, there was one of them that was being willfully dishonest and ignorant all the way through. And, you have to, again, right, that strategy works the first time. Like I've noticed that she has never come back for a second go round, because if she had come back for a second go round, and I can't remember what her name, I know she's African American, but if she comes back for a second go round, she would probably not do particularly well. So when you start looking, so when I talk about Fresh and Fit and whatever, and I talk about by the numbers, what I mean by the numbers is that the number of shows, the number of women, and the consistently dumb, stupid behavior that you have seen, and ignorant and misandric behavior that you have seen, and out of touch, by the way, too, out of touch and insane behavior that you have seen a lot of these women purport. And it keeps happening time and time and time again, right? It gets to the point where, it's getting hard to dismiss, right? And also, Andrew Wilson and Brian Atlas are a lot more careful about letting the mainstream media speak to them, which is probably a good thing, right? But what it is ultimately boiling down to with Fresh and Fit and whatever is that the sheer number of women that they have had on their shows combined, and the consistent negative behavior that these women have demonstrated. And again, it's not all of them, but it's enough of them, right? And it's not necessarily even on every show, but it's a consistent, steady stream of them. And again, you can go, oh, well, it's just a bunch of porn stars, just a bunch of Instagram models, or a bunch of Fresh and Fit content creators. Yeah, and the audience that did the reviews for the Odyssey were curated as well. Now, of course, I have no idea what's going to happen with the Odyssey, although I've got some rather shaky, suspicious feelings about that movie. But ultimately, what it was boiling down to is that, and this is part of the reason why Fresh and Fit and whatever have been coming under increased attack over the past few months, and what they will come under even more increased attack over the next couple of years, is because although women are doing a generally pretty good job of making themselves look pretty hateful and disgusting for the most part anyway, what's been going on here is that, I mean, like, the numbers of women that you have seen on these shows doing this, you can't just kind of like dismiss it as just a couple of bad apples anymore. And when the number is like 6,000 people is a fairly solid sample size, all right? Presidential polls use numbers half that size. And with that, this is Neroke 5, and I'm on to the next one.